Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of biology's oldest, most fascinating mysteries. How exactly do traits get passed down from one generation to the next? For centuries, long before anyone even knew what DNA was, the mechanics of heredity were just a complete guessing game. But as we'll see today, it took a highly unique mind to finally crack the code. We're going to visually break down the foundation of modern genetics, and I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to look at your own family tree in a completely different way. Okay, let's dive right in by looking at what people actually used to believe. Up until the 19th century, the prevailing idea was something called the blending theory of inheritance. And the thought process was pretty simple. If a father has curly black hair and a mother has straight blonde hair, their child will have wavy brown hair. It made intuitive sense, right? It was kind of like taking a bucket of red paint, pouring in a bucket of white paint, and getting a perfectly blended pink bucket. But there was a glaring logical flaw in this theory. Think about it. If traits permanently blended together like paint, generation after generation, every living thing would eventually look exactly the same. Rare traits would just get washed out and lost forever. Clearly, biology needed a much better explanation. Enter this absolutely incredible historical figure, Gregor Mendel. He was an Austrian monk working in the 1860s. But Mendel wasn't just casually tending to some monastery garden. He had actually studied physics and mathematics at the University of Vienna. And what's really interesting here is that Mendel combined botany and math. He did something nobody else was doing at the time. He applied strict mathematical probability and statistical tracking to biology. He wasn't just observing plants. He was counting them, calculating ratios, and looking for hard mathematical laws hidden right there in the leaves. Now, to pull off a massive mathematical undertaking like this, Mendel needed the absolute perfect test subject. He went with the Garden Pea plant. Over 7 years, he meticulously tested over 28,000 of them. He chose them for 4 very distinct reasons. First, they grow incredibly fast, so he could study multiple generations quickly. Second, they produce thousands of seeds, giving him the large sample sizes you absolutely need for reliable statistics. Third, he could easily control their mating using tweezers to cross-pollinate specific flowers. But the fourth reason is the real game changer. Pea plants have binary traits. They are completely one thing or the other. It's like an on-off switch. There are absolutely no blended, in-between versions. This idea of binary traits is absolutely crucial. Mendel didn't just look at the whole plant at once. He painstakingly isolated 7 very specific physical traits, and the contrasts are stark. A seed's shape is either perfectly round or it's totally wrinkled. A stem is either tall or it's dwarf. The seed color is yellow or green. And before Mendel even started his real experiments, he bred these plants over and over until he created pure breeding lines. That means a tall plant only ever produced tall plants, generation after generation. He had to know his starting materials were genetically pure before he could test what happens when they finally mix. Which brings us to Law 1, the law of dominance. Once he had those pure breeding lines established, Mendel was ready to start crossing them. And here is the scientific plot twist of the 19th century. Mendel took a pure tall plant and crossed it with a pure dwarf plant. Now remember that old blending theory we talked about with the paint buckets? According to that, the offspring should have been medium height, a perfect blend. Instead, 100% of the offspring in this first generation were completely, entirely tall. Not a single medium plant in the bunch. The dwarf trait seemingly vanished into thin air. So the really crucial point here is how Mendel explained this total disappearance. He realized that organisms actually inherit 2 versions of every gene, which we now call alleles. And his first law, the law of dominance, states that when an organism inherits 2 different alleles, one will completely mask the other. This is your dominant allele. It's the one that physically shows up. We usually represent it with a capital letter, like a big T for tall. In this cross, the tall allele was so dominant it literally overwrote any physical sign of the dwarf allele in that entire first generation. But wait, what about the allele that got masked? We call that the recessive allele, and we represent it with a lowercase letter, like a little t. It is vital to understand here that the dwarf trait wasn't destroyed in this cross. The paint wasn't blended permanently. The recessive dwarf allele was just temporarily hiding. It was sitting quietly in the background of these newly created tall plants, completely masked by that dominant tall allele. Moving right along to Law 2, the law of segregation. So this brings us to the next phase of his investigation. If that dwarf trait is really just hiding, can we get it back? Mendel actually had this exact same question. He had a whole crop of these newly created 100% tall plants from his first experiment. So he let those first-generation tall plants self-pollinate. If the dwarf trait was truly destroyed, well, their offspring would all be tall forever. But Mendel proposed the law of segregation. He theorized that a parent's two alleles separate or segregate during the formation of gametes, meaning the sperm or egg cells. Each gamete only gets one single allele to pass on. And here is the phenomenal mathematical proof. When those hybrid tall plants reproduced, the hidden recessive trait miraculously reappeared. Out of every 4 plants, 3 were tall and exactly 1 was dwarf. A perfect 3-to-1 physical ratio. Using what we now call a Punnett square, the math perfectly predicts this. When you cross a plant carrying 1 big T and 1 little t with another plant carrying the exact same thing, there is exactly a 25% chance that 2 little t's will meet up. When they do, there's no dominant allele there to mask them, and boom, the dwarf plant is born.
Next up, Law 3, Independent Assortment.
Mendel had definitively proven that individual traits don't blend. But what happens when you look at a much more complex picture? Mendel decided to level up his experiment by testing 2 traits at the exact same time. He took pure plants with round and yellow seeds and crossed them with pure plants with wrinkled and green seeds. The first generation, as you'd expect from the law of dominance, were 100% round and yellow. But then he crossed those hybrids together. The big question was, does the dominant round shape always stick to the dominant yellow color? Do they travel as a package deal? The answer is a resounding no. Mendel proved the law of independent assortment, which means alleles for different traits sort into gametes completely independently of each other. They mix and match completely freely. And this right here showcases the absolute genius of applying math to biology. Because the traits mix and match independently, we can actually calculate the exact combinations using fractional probabilities. The chance of a seed being round is 3 out of 4. The chance of it being yellow is 3 out of 4. Multiply them together, and you get 9 out of 16 for round and yellow. Keep doing that math across the board, and it creates this incredibly famous ratio, 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. 9 round yellow, 3 round green, 3 wrinkled yellow, and 1 wrinkled green. Mendel didn't just guess what his plants would look like. He mathematically predicted their exact physical traits before they even grew. Section 4, Nature Breaks Rules. Because, post-Mendel, we realized biology is inherently messy. Now, as beautifully neat and mathematical as Mendel's work was, once later scientists started looking beyond the Garden Pea, they found that nature loves to break its own rules. There are 2 major exceptions to Mendel's strict dominant-recessive binary. On one hand, we have incomplete dominance. Sometimes neither allele is fully dominant. If you cross a red snapdragon flower with a white one, you actually do get a blended pink offspring. It kind of looks like that old paint bucket theory, but really it's just that neither color is strong enough to mask the other. Then, compare that to codominance. This is where both alleles express equally and fully at the exact same time. Cross a red cow with a white cow, and you don't get a pink cow, you get a roan cow. A cow completely covered in distinct patches of both pure red and pure white hair.
And the complexity definitely doesn't stop there. Mendel's peas only had 2 options per trait, but many genes actually have multiple alleles. A perfect example is human blood types, which are determined by 3 interacting alleles, A, B, and O. Furthermore, remember the law of independent assortment where traits don't stick together? Well, that only works if the genes are on entirely different chromosomes, or at least really far apart. We later discovered gene linkage. If 2 genes are pinned right next to each other on the exact same chromosome, they are physically linked, and they almost always get inherited together as a single unit.
Section 5. The Grand Rediscovery, and Proving Mendel Right. Despite these later exceptions, Mendel's foundational math was absolutely revolutionary. But the conclusion of his story is both a bit tragic and ultimately profoundly vindicating. Mendel published his meticulous, brilliant life's work in 1866. And you know what the scientific community did? They completely ignored it. Crickets. For an astonishing 34 years, his masterpiece literally gathered dust. The world simply wasn't ready for biology to be explained through statistics. It actually wasn't until the year 1900 that 3 different scientists independently recreated his experiments, stumbled upon his old paper, and realized he was a genius who beat them to the punch by decades. And even later, as microscopes finally became powerful enough to let us look deep inside a cell's nucleus, scientists could actually watch those X-shaped chromosomes segregating and assorting. They were physically seeing the exact math Mendel had worked out in his garden decades earlier. From a quiet monastery garden to textbooks worldwide, Gregor Mendel proved that heredity is not magic, and it's definitely not random blending. It is governed by strict, predictable laws. So I want to leave you with this final thought today. The next time you look in the mirror or look at an old family photo, ask yourself, which of your traits are playing strictly by Mendel's rules of dominance, and which of your traits are breaking them? It's a completely new way to see yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible science all around you.